Growing up, I always wish that my story was a little bit different. I've always felt that I've had this dramatic, lifetime movie of a story, and at the time when it was told to me, I don't think that I was mentally mature or able to accept the story or understand it. And I wanted to shy away from what I've known about myself. At the age of 9, my beautiful mom took me to Barbados. After a few days of being there, she sat me down in the bed and she just kind of casually told me that, Dara, you're adopted, and your adopted family lives on this island. They live in Barbados. I really was just like in denial because when you're 9, you don't really know, like, are you my real family? Are you my fake family? So why did they give me up for adoption? And at that time, the story wasn't fully given to me.
When my birth mother found out that she was pregnant with me, she was only 21 years old, struggling to find work, but still doing the best that she could to raise my sister, who is 4 years older than me. Because of the complexities of her home life, she could not tell her family of the adoption, so she kept it a secret for years by telling them that I died in childbirth. She really wanted to ensure that I would end up in a 2-parent household and that my life would be completely different than the one that I was born into.
I was devastated because I wanted the woman that I knew to be my mom and the family that I knew to grow up with to be my family. I mean, now, yes, they are my family, but I wanted to be a part of them. I think that at the time, I thought that I was like less of a relative. I think the enemy kind of started playing things in my mind where I didn't think that I was good enough. And I thought that there was something wrong with me and that I would always be given up in any situation, that I wasn't really loved. These inadequacy feelings just always stuck with me for a while. And it got really serious for me. I had a difficult time in school, in elementary school, with peers and my teacher. They would bully me a lot. And so I'm dealing with, on one side, feeling like, okay, I don't really know who I am. I don't have the rest of my story, and I'm told that this family that I've grown up knowing for so long, that they're not my biological family, and that there's this other story to me. And on the other side, I'm in school, and it's not an outlet to have fun. It's not an outlet to really learn or to grow, but I was starting to get bullied because of my appearance, because my hair was very short like a boy. And so I was just dealing with the war inside of me and just feeling like I'm inadequate. No one really loves me. And I remember wanting to not live at 9 and not wanting to be around and wanting to kind of commit suicide. And even though I had a lot of love from my mom, I became really depressed at a really early age because I felt like I wasn't good enough. My mom, neither one of my parents knew that I was having those thoughts of just feeling inadequate. I think that for them, they just thought that I was acting out in school. My teacher, she was tough on me. It was like subtle abuse from a teacher. And as a kid, sometimes when things are done to you by adults, you don't necessarily know that it's wrong. You just internally think that it's something that you did wrong and there's something wrong with you. And so this is a reoccurring thing with me, even though my birth parents, at the time, I didn't know, but they had a difficult situation. They had to make the option of giving me up for adoption. I thought that it's me. And so my teacher's doing this to me, and I'm thinking, well, she's being mean to me. It's me, because I didn't feel love. I didn't feel happy. And these are feelings that stayed with me even when I got older and I started started to date. And though I was attending a church at the time, it was more of, we just attend church. To be honest, at the time, I didn't feel like I was being adequately prepared for the word or being taught real lessons from the word. And when you start to get to the teenage age and you start to want to date, I did not know really what the word of God said pertaining to dating or how to live your life. And so I really took matters into my own hands when I got to high school. And I think I've always had the image of this good girl, and everybody else was just doing their own thing. And I would have friends that, that were sexually active, and they would say, well, why are you not doing it? And why aren't you doing what we're doing? You're a goody two-shoes. And I was labeled as this thing, and I don't think I necessarily liked it. And I would see friends just getting away with whatever they want, dating whoever they want, being with whoever they want, and I started to question my choice. And I didn't know that it was necessarily wrong to make the choice of having sex out of marriage. I dated a guy that I would say that we both weren't good for each other. I accepted the way I was treated, and the relationship was abusive. It was definitely mentally abusive, and it was a bit physically abusive. I did get shoved around, and I was verbally disrespected. And we were both young. Immature. We didn't know what love was. And it was difficult. It was extremely painful relationship. It was a relationship that I didn't have around my family because I knew that they would speak out of it. I knew that my family would never, ever be okay with someone treating me the way that it was. And here goes this goody two-shoe girl who went from always being home, going to church. Now she no longer goes to church, and she's no longer in college. She's dating this guy who doesn't value her worth. He doesn't even value his own worth. I think that the entire time, I understand when people say, how could someone allow someone to disrespect them? I can see how, because sometimes you don't feel that happy about yourself. Sometimes you don't think that you're good, and it's like the enemy matched me with this person because this thing that he was trying to grow in my heart, these negative feelings that he was growing in my heart from 9 years old, this person was negatively affirming things that the enemy wanted me to believe about myself, that I wasn't good enough. This person would constantly talk about my looks. He was promiscuous with other women. And looking back, I'm like, how could I have dealt with that? Because when you're 20 years old, you think that if you've given someone a part of yourself, or you've given a person, your prized jewel, that you have to stay with them. And at the age of 21, I got pregnant. Now, I've always wanted to have children. When you're adopted, you want to have family. I just wanted my own flesh and blood, and I wish I could say that I was happy being pregnant, but I wasn't. He started to verbally abuse me and say that I wish you died, and that maybe you should find someone else to take care of this child, because I'm not. I remember going home and walking home those several blocks to my mom's house and just crying, and I didn't have anyone that understood. And I've always wanted children, but I never wanted children in this way. I never wanted my child to feel like how I felt at 9, not loved and not wanted. And I felt like this situation would have been much worse. So after talking to my mom, I really got to the point that, I really don't want to have an abortion. I don't want to make that type of decision. I wanted to have this baby. So I thought that, let me have a conversation with him. Let me get him on the phone, and maybe we can make amends. And I called him, and it was no such thing that was gonna happen. It made me angry. It made me really angry, and I was frustrated. And I remember just hearing his mom say something in the background that was hurtful and was more on his side, and I guess like saying something to the effect like, well, that's what happens when like you lay down with somebody. And I hung up, and I was so upset that it didn't feel like anyone was giving me an extended hand. And so at the time, I made a very impulsive, hurtful decision that still, not gonna lie, it still bothers me to this day. And I got off the phone and I told my mom, I'm taking the abortion pill. Let's make an appointment for the doctor. And we did. And I was so upset that I made a decision that I've always wanted. I've always wanted a piece of me. I've always wanted my own flesh and blood. And I decided, based on how someone else felt, that I was going to terminate the pregnancy and take the abortion pill. So immediately after I took the pill, the next day, I literally woke up in tears. And I couldn't believe what I did. I wasn't thinking that God wanted me. I thought that God hates me. Look what I did to him. How could I do this to God? And then call out for him. I just had these thoughts, perceiving that he just didn't want to hear me. He didn't want to talk to me. He didn't want to be my friend. That's what I thought of. Those thoughts got extremely dangerous, and I thought that my life had no purpose, and I wanted to die. I wanted to commit suicide. I mean, I remember it, just feeling like I had no hope, and I felt guilty, and I felt like instead of going to God and making it right, I had to prove to God, I had to make it better. And so I thought that the only way for me to make it better was to get back with the person and to have another baby. That's what I thought would have been better, because I felt broken. I felt like there was this void in me that I needed to fill, and I could not fill it. That was the only way that I could fill it, was trying to get to have another baby. I wish I could say that after all that stuff that he did, that I left right away and that was enough for me, but I didn't. We continued the cycle for 3 years. At the time, I was used to the pain. I was used to this relationship that just wasn't good for me, and I had no idea that real love was waiting for me to run right into it. Real love that was not given by man, was waiting for me to recognize that it just wanted to surround me and to make me know that I'm whole and I'm enough. And after the 3 years, I remember just getting to a point where I said to God, I can't do this anymore. I've tried to leave him by myself, and after a few months, I don't want to be back with him. I need you to take this away, this feeling of wanting to be with him. Only you can take this away. And God did. He answered my prayers. I no longer felt that need to want to be with this person. I started to look for God, and I wanted to know more about God, like what God had for me and what was the purpose of this. And I really was just led by God step by step. this wasn't like this dramatic change, and I didn't become this perfect person. I don't know where I still am not this perfect person, but I asked God to help me. I was studying this philosophy class where they were talking about the existence of God, and it was all these statements that really had me questioning my own belief in life and why are we here. So I was in utter confusion, and I felt like I was suffering for a little bit until I just prayed and I said, God, I don't want to live my life confused and not knowing who you are or what my purpose is, or the right way. I don't want to believe something that my mom told me or a church that I grew up in. I want to know the truth. And I don't know how I'm going to find that out other than you tell me. And I didn't know that he would immediately speak to me. But that night I went to sleep and I had a dream, and I've never had a dream like this before. And he basically gave me this dream where in the dream, literally I heard a voice tell me, I need you to read Ephesians 5. And so I got up out of my dream, was extremely shaken up about what I saw. And in Ephesians 5, when I read it, it literally told me everything about Christianity and how to be a Christian, and that Jesus was the way. What really got me was in the Good News translation, it says, this is why it is said, rise from sleeping, wake up, O dreamer, and Christ will shine on you. And that really spoke to me because I was sleeping and I was having a dream, and I felt like at that point, when you call out to God, he will answer you. And sometimes he knows that some people only can hear in certain ways. So for me, maybe a dream only could have waken me up. Some people need other people to evangelize to them or whatever have you. But at that point, I felt extremely grateful that God decided that he wanted to speak to me, that he wants to answer the questions that I had in my heart. He did not want me to be confused. And that's for anybody. He does not want you to be confused. And maybe he may not answer your question in the same way that he did to me, but he will surely answer you in the best way that he knows that you will answer him, because he's your God, he's your creator, and he knows you to a T. He knows how you'll answer and how you will understand. And from there, I knew that I didn't have to be confused anymore. I knew that Jesus was the way, and I just wanted to make sure that I followed that path, and I wanted to learn more. And I decided to, join a church that would spiritually feed me. I still have a lot of work that God is uncovering and helping me and shaping and molding me. I'm truly thankful. I'm truly thankful that he chose me, and that he's given me my past and my stories. He's using me for his kingdom, and I'm thankful. I'm thankful that I know that he's going to complete his work until the day of Christ, and that it's a step-by-step process. And he tells me every day that I don't have to think about my past. I don't have to remember who hurt me, or I don't have to believe the things that the enemy has been trying to tell me since I was a kid, but I can believe what he says about me, that I'm the apple of his eye, that there is nothing that I've done, that I currently doing, or will do in the future that can separate me from his love. And that to me is more powerful than anything that anyone has said to me. And it's a love that I'm going to hold on to. I'm Dara, and I'm a disciple.